And good morning, everybody. This is Art Shed with the show. Let's be reasonable and still, fallout from the Trump guilty verdict from yesterday. Remember, Trump found guilty on all 34 counts in New York City, what they labeled the hush money case, but in all reality was an election violation case. So, at the end of the day, folks, here we are, a few hours later. I'd say not 24 hours yet, but we're closing in on 24 hours after the verdict. And, you hear a lot of conversation about people being upset about the judge, people being upset about the prosecution being able to object to certain witnesses that the defense brought. You hear a lot of scuttle about the jury. Now, I'm here to tell you, I think Judge Mershon, I don't know the extent of it, but he had filed uh, two requests just to make sure that it was okay for him to sit on this particular case. And his superiors or the panel found that it was okay for him to preside over this particular case. And I think the Trump team had tried on two other occasions in order to try to get him removed because, his daughter, and be quite honest, guess what? I don't even know what the daughter does. If she is like a political operative or whatever the case may be. I don't know, don't care. However, I do know this that I don't care if you are in a Democrat town or Republican town. I'm here to tell you that a number of those judges are elected, right? So if they're elected, then they have a party affiliation, but expect for them to be impartial when they mete out the justice, right? You expect for that impartiality to show up regardless of being conservative or liberal or being Republican or Democrat. Because I'll be the first to tell you there's a difference between being Republican and Democrat and being conservative and liberal, right? So we got Democrat and Republican parties, and then you have ideology. Ideology can cut across the spectrum, and it generally does. So, all that being said, folks, look, I decided to today just look at the jury, and I pulled one of the New York Times articles. I think it was dated in April. We'll pull it up here in a second. And let's just kind of look down through the jury, right? And see what type of jury did Trump draw, right? And let's determine. I mean, and this is hindsight, right? So we can afford to do that. Let's determine whether or not this would have been a favorable jury for him or not. And I would also tell you that once we go down through the jury, we probably need to also go through, well, the electorate, right? Because going through the electorate will tell you, uh, based on what we see, uh, I would say give you some idea as to what to expect, right? Now, all of this is hindsight, but it's a fair game for us to play just to kind of check and see if the drapes match the shades, so to speak. So when you look at the jury, this is a New York Times article that was published on April the 18th, and they are giving you a peek into the jury who were going to decide Donald Trump's fate, right? So, 12 Manhattanites, I should say, were picked with the task. And let's just kind of go down through the jurors and let's see what we got. So, when you look at juror number one, what do we know? It says that he would be picked as the foreman, right? The first person picked in New York is generally picked to be the foreman. He worked in sales in West Harlem. He enjoyed doing outdoor activity. He got his news from the New York Times and watched Fox News and MSNBC. And he had heard about some of Trump's other criminal cases, but he didn't have an opinion about them. Okay, so, right. Look, I don't care. And we'll go down through, we got 11 more to go through, but think about it this way. I don't imagine that anybody in the United States, I, they haven't heard of the cases. I think everyone has probably heard of the cases. I don't care what news outlet you're looking at. I don't care if it's TikTok, social media, or whatever it is. People were talking about these cases. And if you haven't heard about the other cases, I don't know. I'm not going to say I find it hard to believe. However, okay, I'll go along with that. I can't test whether or not that's true or false, but it just says, maybe there's more there. I don't know. There's there. Who knows? All right, that's juror number one. But I will note that he does watch Fox News. Okay, so with juror number two, works in finance, lives in Hell's Kitchen. He likes hiking, music, concerts, enjoying New York City. He's followed Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen. And he also follows, looks like, Kellyanne Conway. And he believes that Trump has done some good for the country, adding, it goes both ways. Okay, so juror number one watches Fox News. Juror number two thinks that Trump has done some good things for the country. Okay, so doesn't sound like a bad thing, right? Okay. So, and you got to remember, I mean, I'm at number two. We got 10 more to go, right? But I want you to think about it this way. When picking the jury, there were, 42 questionnaire that they had to fill out. And based on that questionnaire, I think the process is called voir dire, right? Based on that questionnaire, the defense and the prosecutors could ask individuals questions and determine whether or not they would be right for the jury. So they went through this rigorous process in order to be seated as one of the 12 jurors. Now, there were also alternates, but we're talking about the 12. So, okay, so this one has obviously looks at Michael Cohen's podcast, but he also follows Kellyanne Conway. So he appears to be a person willing to look at both sides of the equation, right? Michael Cohen isn't a supporter of Donald Trump today, right? That may change. Okay. And we know Kellyanne Conway, obviously a hardcore Trump supporter, hardcore MAGA supporter, right? So to the point where it blew up her marriage. Think about that. So he seems to be, well, I would say a reasonable chap, juror number two. But onward, let's look at juror number three. Juror number three works in the legal field. So here's our lawyer, right? Works in the legal field, lives in Chelsea. He does not follow the news closely. When he does, he reads the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and found articles on Google. He added that he was not very familiar with Trump and his criminal cases. Okay. All right. So another person not that familiar with Trump and his criminal cases. Look, familiarity relative, right? I mean, I am probably familiar with the DC case, familiar with the Georgia case, familiar with the New York City case, familiar with the Washington DC case, right? Do I know everything about them? Probably not. So a relative question asked, a relative answer, I would imagine, given. So no problem with juror number three, but I will say, think about it, that he takes his news from the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. So that tells me, he's conservative on a number of points, because the Wall Street Journal is, it's not the Washington Post, okay? And it's not the New York Times, okay? It's pretty conservative. So, all right, so that's juror number three. Juror number four. Juror number five works in education and is from Harlem. She tries to avoid political conversations, doesn't care to watch the news. She says she appreciates Trump's candor. This sounds like a Republican to me. The president speaks his mind, she said. I would rather that in a person than someone in office you don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. Okay. So I would say again, maybe juror number five, probably conservative, right? Juror number six, works in technology, lives in Chelsea, female. She gets her news from the New York Times, Facebook, Google, TikTok. probably younger, right? Maybe a little younger, right? She says she probably had a different beliefs than Trump, younger. Okay, but that is a free country. All right, I'm going to tell you, she's young, right? Female, young female, probably Democrat, probably, probably. Well, she's telling you she doesn't have his same political views, right? Now, I mean, I'm here to tell you that Trump's political views aren't really conservative. So there's that, and we could talk about that some other day. All right, so that's juror number 6. Number 7 works in the legal field. So here's our second attorney, right? Works in the legal field, lives on the Upper East Side. Said he's aware of Trump's other cases, but he didn't have an opinion about Trump's. This is interesting. He is aware of the other cases, but had no opinion about Trump's character. He said he had political views as to Trump's presidency, agrees with some of Trump's administration's policies, and disagrees with others. Okay. So he's rather ambivalent. If I were looking at number 7, I'd probably say he's probably moderate. Okay. What I'm getting at so far is that there's only one person that I've come across and said that they're probably liberal. Everyone else seems to be rather conservative, right? And then I have a moderate here. And that's juror number 7. Juror number 8 is from the Upper East Side and works in finance. He reads the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. Look, I'm telling you, the Wall Street Journal is a dead giveaway for conservative. Okay, so when you see that, just say to yourself, conservative. He watches CNBC and the BBC. He enjoys fly fishing, skiing, yoga. All right, yoga. During jury selection, he said he had no opinions nor beliefs that would prevent him from being impartial. Okay, probably conservative. The yoga, fly fishing, or fishing and skiing. I mean, I can't draw any data from that other than to say I think that he's conservative, given the Wall Street Journal read. So again, not a liberal, right? Not conservative, right? Moderate conservative, yeah, okay. Because CNBC and BBC moderately conservative. All right. So again, nothing liberal jumping out on the page yet here. Number 9 works in education. Works in an education setting from the Upper East Side. She said of Trump that he was our president. Everyone knows who he is. Added that when he was in office, everyone was kind of talking about politics. All right. I don't know what that really tells me. She works in education. Yeah. Nothing really jumps off the page. I mean, the education piece, depending on what, it's conceivable that she's probably a Democrat, right? Maybe a. Other than that, I don't know. And I say conceivability on the Democrat side because of her work in education. That's a stretch. So not a whole lot known about number 9, but draw some inference in the fact that she works in the educational field, maybe a Democrat. Okay. Number 10 is a businessman, all right, who lives in Murray Hill. He said didn't follow the news, added, if anything, it's the New York Times. That's what he generally looks at. But he likes listening to podcasts about behavioral psychology and added that's his hobby. He didn't have any strong opinions about Trump. We really don't know anything about him, so I'm going to throw him in the independent camp. One liberal, a bunch of conservatives, maybe in different categories of conservatism, but conservative nonetheless, right? And then I got some guy here, number 10, seems to be a little ambiguous. Behavioral psychology. I mean, I could call him independent, but I could also call him a Democrat. I mean, this is a hobby too. So that's very interesting. Again, I still think a majority of these people so far are conservative. All right, number 11. Let's see. She's a product manager, lives on the Upper East Side. She said she did not have any strong opinions about Donald Trump. Added, I don't like his persona. How he presents himself in public. She then added, I don't like some of my coworkers, but I don't try to sabotage their work. so so there's that. So what can I say about her? So just based on what she told us, let's see. Trump added, works as a product manager. Female product manager. I'm gonna say she's a Democrat, but I don't know a whole lot. Okay. And this is just a guess. We're just playing a game here. I'm not saying I'm going to be 100% right. I'm just saying, based on the evidence and information, it appears, right, what we know about politics, and maybe we should go down through some of those items and look at these 12 jurors again. I'll set that up here in just a minute. But it seems to me that she may be a Democrat. What do we know about her ideology? She seems to be somewhat open-minded. Like she said, she didn't like his persona, but she doesn't like some of her coworkers, but she don't go around sabotaging their work. So I would say she's probably Democrat, and I still would say that she's probably lukewarm conservative. Okay, so number 12, this is the last one. Works in healthcare, lives in the Upper East Side. She likes listening to music, hiking. She also listens to religious podcasts. All right, so you would think that she works in healthcare and lives on the Upper East Side, likes music, hiking, and listens to the religious podcasts. Obviously, I'm going to say she's conservative. Beyond that, I have no idea what's going on here, right? So, what do we know? A majority of these individuals are conservative. There are definitely two individuals, ladies, who stand out as Democrat. One stand out to be more liberal, the one that's in the social media. I think that was juror number 6. Facebook. Yeah, juror number 6. But the number one, I would say number one, um, definitely conservative. Not going to say Republican, but I definitely know conservative. Watches Fox News. Number 2, probably moderate conservative, right? Listens to both Michael Cohen and Kellyanne Conway. Number 3, lives in Chelsea. Wall Street Journal, conservative. Number 4, that's the one that was freezing. Engineer. Don't know a bunch about number 4. Number 5, President speaks his mind. I'm going to say conservative and probably in his camp, right? Number 6, again, that's my liberal. Number 7, Upper East Side, no opinion about Trump. Didn't know about his character. So willing to reserve all of his information or thoughts about Trump until he knows more about his character. That's what we learned here. I'm going to say probably again conservative, moderate conservative. Okay. Number 8, Wall Street Journal, conservative. Number 9, I'm going to say that education again. I think this is my other Democrat. Number 10, businessman, New York Times, behavioral science. I think this may be a Democrat too, or if anything, independent, but probably still conservative nonetheless. I don't have any indicators that says he's liberal, or at least I don't see any. If you see any, just feel free to add comments in the comment section. Number 11, product manager, Upper East Side or Upper Manhattan. Didn't like his persona. This is probably a person that is on the not conservative but liberal spectrum. Um, but open-minded. Okay, I maybe changed my mind on number 11. Probably, yeah, probably liberal, open-minded though. Um, we'll give her. We'll say that she's probably a D. And number 12, Upper East Side, listens to music, hiking. Also, I'll say conservative. So I would still say of the 12 jurors, it's probably more conservative bent than it is a uh, liberal bent, right? So when it comes to getting a fair trial in New York City, I think that these individuals probably did that. They looked at the information that was presented to them and rendered a decision. So, I mean, I don't see anything that stands out to me that says that these guys wouldn't be fair or impartial. Just my opinion, right? I do want to take a look at one other thing, though. Try to see how do we do this here. I want to look at Pew Research, and I want to look at it on party affiliation. And then we're going to go back to those jurors and take another peek at it. And again, we have the benefit of hindsight at this point. We still don't know anything about it because the jury or members haven't said anything, but we can just draw some inferences, and that's what we're doing. Okay, so when it comes to ideology, this is what we know, and this is about the American electorate, right? So, and this is information by Pew Research, right? Okay, there's a share of voters who identify as independent, and something else somewhat higher since the 90s. Okay, currently 15% of voters lean toward Republican Party, 16 lean toward Democrat Party. By comparison, in 94, 27% leaned either GOP, 15% lean, what is this? 27% lean toward either the GOP, 15%, or the Democrat Party at 12%. 27% of voters lean toward either. Interesting. Anyway, so on down the page here. When you look at the breakdown, leaning toward party notification and ideology of the United States, party identification and ideology. Look, when it comes to liberal Democrats, in 2019, 24% called themselves liberal Democrats. In 2023, it was 23%. I'm going to tell you that these numbers really don't move a whole lot, so it's kind of stayed consistent. When you look at conservatives or moderate Dems, 27% said they were moderate Dems in 2019, while 25% say they're moderate Dems today. Okay. 15% call themselves moderate liberal conservatives versus 14% today, or 2023. Conservative, 31% say they were conservative, Republican, leaning Republican, 33% today, or in 2023. So here's what we know. There's a lion's share of the electorate who make up about a third of the electorate, right, that consider themselves to be conservative. And then you have, so a third plus another 15 gets you roughly around 50, right? So around 47, really. So you say that you got 47% and you got 25 and 23, so 48%. So it's a tight race, and that's what we all know, right? So let's look at page 2. This is where we start getting into some race, ethnicity, and some education. And this is where I think some of the information that we know about the jury becomes important. Okay. When it comes to the electorate, majorities of Hispanics, blacks, and Asian continue to vote for the Democrat Party, while white voters remain more aligned with the GOP. You can see the numbers. Really, in 94, 13% of the electorate of black voters voted for the Republican, 83% voted for Democrat. And, I got to tell you, side note, you get a lot of Republicans. Talking points, man. I mean, two things I'll tell you. One, just remember after this verdict came out, the Republican chair called a meeting with Republican party chairs, right? And they discussed the talking points going forward. So when you hear that, just know that when you're talking to Republicans, they already have their talking points in line. The second point that I'm going to make is that, you hear Republicans say all the time that, black people only vote Democrats, and you'd think that they would learn from voting Democrat. Well, it does go both ways, because as a minority in particular, you could look at white people and say, white people vote Republican. And you think that they would learn over all this time. And I say that when I look at supply side economics and I look at it over the past 50 years, and I'm like, man, the reason why you're upset is because supply side economics doesn't work for you. It works for everybody else, but it doesn't work for white America. Or at least it hasn't. And maybe I'll clean that language up. But from the standpoint that when you look at these gerrymandered districts, these districts are poorer, and I say gerrymandered Republican districts are poorer than Democrat districts. We discussed that before, but that's the truth. So when you look at it, you say that supply side economics just doesn't seem to work for them. And you got to admit, you don't understand or have a good reason why, but that just is the case. All right. So look, let's see. Something else I wanted to look at. Women. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay. This is important that we look at too. When it comes to postgraduate degrees and whether or not they support Democrats or Republicans, let's see. If you have a high school or less, you're more likely to be Republican. Some college, still likely to be Republican. College degree is a flip. You're more now likely to be Democrat. When it's postgraduate work, 61% are Democrat, are likely to be Democrat. That's an interesting poll. So the more education you get, the more likely you are Democrat. The less educated, the more likely you're going to be Republican. I don't know, what does that say? We can talk about that some other day. Educational differences in partisanship are wide among white voters. Interesting. So, with regard to non-college degree white voters, likely to be Republican. College degree or more likely to be Democrat. That's changed. Not really. Yeah, I guess it's changed a little bit since 94. Yeah, that's changed a lot from 94 to 2023. 41% likely to be Democrat versus 58% likely to be Republican in 94. Now it's 51% Democrat, 47% Republican. Interesting. When it comes to Hispanics, in the 2006, 2000, let's just call it 2008. 2008, 70% likely to be Democrat, 60% likely in 2023. 28% likely to be Republican in 2008, 35% likely to be Republican in 2023. That's no college. When it comes to some college or college degree, 71% likely to be Democrat in 2008, 63% likely to be Democrat in 2023. Vice versa, 27% likely to be Republican in 2008, 35% likely to be Republican in 2023. Interesting numbers too. African Americans, 85% in 2004, 85% in 2005, or sorry, 85% in 2023. So that's with no college. And then with college, 90% to be Democrat in 1994, and 79%. So a dramatic drop off for, I would say, educated African Americans in 2023. And you do see, I mean, some of that showing up in the Republican column. And that's interesting that you can't find it all. Let's see, right here. 13, 13. So yeah, you probably have some of them that end up in the independent camp. All right, so that's interesting information too. All right, so I do want to look at gender. We'll look at this and then we'll get out of here. All right, so when you look at gender, when it comes to white men, look, let's just look at 23. White men vote Republican. The majority of them do. White women, majority of them. That's interesting too. White women, a majority of them vote Republican as well. Hispanic men vote Democrat. Hispanic women vote Democrat. Majority. Black men vote Democrat. Black women vote Democrat, more so than black men. Okay. I do want to, let's page over one more. Let's look at sex and gender. Okay, so partisanship by sex and gender. Okay, so marital status and sexual orientation. For all registered voters, 49% of them are going to be Democrat, 48% will be Republican. 46% will be men that vote Democrat. 52% will be men that vote vote Republican. 51% women vote Democrat versus 44% of women voting Republican. Interesting. Okay, so, and that's when we look at married men and women, more married men vote Republican, more married women vote Republican. Men who live with a partner vote Democrat. Interesting break, right? Women who live with a partner, 64% vote Democrat. People who are divorced vote Democrat. If they're separated, men and women vote Democrat. If you're a widow, you vote Republican, man or woman. If you have never been married, you vote Democrat. Okay. Single men vote Republican. Single straight women, I should say. Straight men vote Republican. Straight women vote a majority Democrat. Bisexual gay men vote Democrat. Lesbian, gay, bisexual women vote Democrat. Okay. So those are your demographic breakdowns. So let's go back to the article. We looked at the jurist. We know a majority of them are Democrat, right? But let's look at the breakdown of the jury. We know that who are the 12, right? So 5 women, 7 men. The Pew Research told us that if you were a woman and you're a registered voter, you're likely to vote Democrat, right? So, and we knew that there was a girl who TikTok and social media, that was her thing. And there was a teacher, right? There was, what was the other lady? She was a product manager, product developer. Let's see if we can find her again. That was number 12, I think. No, number 11. Upper East Side. Any strong views about Trump addict? She didn't like his persona. So, yeah, we said that she's a D. Where's the other woman at? There's one there. Businessman. Finance. He. Okay, we talked about her. We know about her. Educating harm. Okay, so here we go. There's the other one. So there's three that we can label as Democrat. This one here, let's see. She's Republican. Appreciated his candor. Where's the other woman? She, she. Okay. So they said that there were four women, right? Is that four women? Five women. She. Number 12. It's like listen to music, hiking. We said she was conservative. So I think that she may be conservative leaning Democrat. Why do I say that? She works in healthcare, uh, probably some degree of education there, right? So the more educated you are, the more likely you are to vote Democrat, right? 12. She's definitely a Democrat. And so we got three women that are probably Democrat, one that's probably Republican. So those are our, where's the fifth one? Two, three. This is number six. Four, okay. And I'm only counting four. I got a she on number five. I got a she on number six. I got a he on number seven, a he on number eight, a she on number nine, a she on number 11. Okay, yeah, a she on number 12. Okay, so there's what is it? Four that were probably Democrat, one that's definitely conservative. She sounded like Republican talking points when she talked about Trump speaks his mind. Okay, so all that being said, guess what? I mean, at the end of the day, it looks like women versus the men. Okay, so you got five women, seven men. The majority of these women were probably D's. When it comes to the majority of the men, I got to tell you, other than what is that, number 10? This one here, number 10, I said he was independent. I'm going to go back and revise that one and tell you that his hobby, he's a very educated person. It sounds educated person. Let's see, businessman. Um, I think highly educated, probably Democrat. Rest of these guys, I'm going to tell you, look, I think probably a majority, there were at least, how many of them were Wall Street Journal guys? Three? Was it three of them? I think it was three. Okay, so I got one Fox News. I'm going to say conservative, let's say Republican. Um, Kellyanne Conway. He's not, I would say moderate, conservative, maybe Democrat. Three, Chelsea, Google, Wall Street Journal, conservative. I'm going to say Republican. Um, some other Wall Street Journal guy. Wall Street Journal, number 8, Republican. Okay. So of my seven men, there's probably three, maybe four that are probably, well, I'm going to say the whole class of them's conservative. There are some conservative Democrats and some conservative Republicans in here. I don't see any of them being really like MAGA supporters. I think only one person on this panel was a MAGA supporter Republican that sounded like the Trump and the Republican talking points. When I say Republican talking points, I'm saying GOP talking points. So when I look at that, did he get a fair trial? Conservative, not liberal. Probably more conservative Democrat than conservative Republican. They weighed the evidence. Look, here's the bottom line. I mean, we've gone through this exercise. Fruitful? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But here's the bottom line. Here's Donald Trump's major mistake. All right. He's choleric in temperament. In other words, pretty easy to get mad at or other people. And here's a situation where that backfires. And it's going to backfire in the other three cases too. When it comes to Mar-a-Lago, when it comes to DC, the Jan 6 case, and when it comes to Virginia, or not Virginia, but Georgia. See, he put his hands in fate, I should say, in the hands of a jury because of his antics. So again, I leave this conversation telling you that ultimately he did it to himself. You put yourself in a situation where you had 12 people decide your fate. And you can't say that the process, I believe, you can't say the process is flawed because this is how the American justice system works. If you don't like the way the American justice system works, then I would tell you, first and foremost, probably try to stay away from the American justice system. Because it's anybody's ball game there. It's no longer, your fate is no longer your own in that setting. And I think that's ultimately what you saw. So I don't know. And at the end of the day, he got convicted of 34 counts. I believe it was probably just. Of course, he can appeal. And of course, he can say whatever it is he wants to say about the outcome. But the reality is now he's a convicted felon. And guess what? For a lot of people, I'm here to tell you that won't matter. They don't care. I got to tell you, I listen to a lot of TikTok lives lately. I don't know why, man. It's like addicting. I mean, I sit and just listen to these people just talk, and I'm amazed, I guess you would say, as to the rationale. And my rationale may be a little loopy too. I don't know, maybe. But when you listen to these people on TikTok Live, I mean, it's really strange how what they certify as research is, well, I mean, just someone else's opinion. I don't know, but here we are. I mean, like I said before, don't put your fate in the hands of 12 jurors because it can go either way. And that's what he did. So, and he did that because he decided to tell a lie and then decided to cover it up. So, at the end of the day, folks, hope you enjoyed the broadcast. I hope you learned a little bit about the 12 jurors, a little bit about the American electorate and how it looks. Men obviously vote Republican, women, a majority of them vote Democrat. You could ask yourself why, but I think it's pretty clear from the standpoint that, you know what? I mean, this is another interesting point. You have to remember that when it comes to women's rights and when it comes to the rights of minorities in general, especially African Americans, those items are not codified in the law. They come up for renewal. So for women to vote Democrat, that's not a no-brainer for me. For Democrats or for minorities and African Americans in general to vote Democrat based on the 1960 Civil Rights Act and the three other acts that followed, it's not a no-brainer. Now, and we could look at some of the failures of that, but at the same time, it's not a no-brainer that the electorate looks this way. So, all that being said, folks, have a good day. It's Friday. Go out and enjoy your weekend. I know I'm going to enjoy mine. Planning on maybe golfing a little bit later today and maybe tomorrow. Hell, maybe on Sunday too. So, who knows? Hey, enjoy your weekend, and we will talk soon.